This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the third innings. What could we say? It was a day about head and hands, I suppose. England won the first session, and they did well in the second. And by the end, it was kind of the same old story. Stokes and Jofra batted well against the soft ball and got the lead to under 100. Weatherall missed a review, which completely gave the first session to England. And then England planned, and weirdly also executed that plan to Marnus Labuschagne. Usman got bounced out by Will Jacks. Green was poking at one early, and England had a small but perceptible chance at doing something. But Stokes didn't bowl. Jofra looked stiffer than a corpse. Cast could barely move in the field. And Jacks is being bowled as some sort of punishment from what I can tell. So England's last chance was when Head got nervous around his 100. He dug himself a hole and England put fielders there. And the pressure of the hometown crowd really got to him as he slashed the ball straight to Harry Brook, who had taken two decent chances earlier in the day. But he put this one down. Now Australia are massively on top. And England's head is in their hands. Yeah, not a particularly good day if you are an English fan, because there was some smarter cricket played. They kept themselves in the contest a little bit, and at the end of it, just none of it matters. And that is maybe the story of this Ashes, that even when they do have a good session or a period of time or something goes right for them, it doesn't seem to matter, because when it goes against them, it goes massively against them. The two South Australians out there at the end. Plenty to talk about. If you've got some questions, pop them in. Rushline now have England at a 1% chance of winning. I'm trying to think of what the highest has been. They were around a 10% chance at the start of this test match. I don't know what they got to on Rushline, but there were certainly some win predictors that were popping them up. But yeah, most of the time when we've been doing this show, they've been between 4 and 10%, I suppose. They're at a 1% chance. Ben Duckett said they could chase a kabillion. I might be paraphrasing that a little bit. I think that's the way they have to think. In fact, there is an element of this that is fair to say that the way that England play, this is a mulligan, right? Because they're so far behind in this, they might as well just go for it. Ollie Pope probably going to be dropped, right? Zach Crawley, also a big chance of being dropped. Maybe not next test, but soon. There could be new coaches, there could be new captains, there could be a new director of cricket. Like, you might as well go out, you might as well go out in your own fashion and so see what they could do. I mean, they might also get bowled out for 74, but yeah, 1% chance. There's some rain due on day 5. There's a couple of questions about that I've already seen, so I'll talk about those in a moment. But so 7% is probably a little bit low if you factor in the weather there. I don't think, if I'm Australia, and I think they batted this way in the last session. If I'm Australia, I think you just think to yourself, the longer we bat, the less likelihood we have of not winning the series, right? Like, maybe they get to a point where they're like, we have enough and we can declare, but I wouldn't be in any hurry to declare here. Why give England a chance at a chase, right? Like, at least make it very, very difficult, whether that be time or anything else. But the weather might also play a part. But yeah, if you want to go and download the Rushline app, you can. Maybe a fun game tomorrow is looking at the Rushline app and waiting for it to go to 0% again. When was I looking at 0%? Was that in this game? I'm trying to remember it back now. Yeah, it must have been when they lost all the wickets. At one stage, they might have got down to that. So they've fought themselves all the way back up again, I suppose, as well. But yeah, download the Rushline app and take a look at that. All right. I had a bunch of questions starred, and either Muku has unstarred them or StreamYard has eaten them. So that's fun. It's a nice variation on a theme there. Old Man Emu says, do you think Cameron Green's spot in the 11 is compromised even if Australia win this match? No, not really. There is an argument you could have at the moment that if Carey can bat at 6, Webster can bat at 7, which I think is a better combination for both of them, especially in Carey's current form. And I think Webster would be a really good number 7. So there is an element, I suppose, of that being possible. But yeah, I think it's probably pretty unlikely that he is going to be dropped. It was a bad innings today, but I'm not sure that that's going to change their mind on Cameron Green. He got the really good wicket of Harry Brook as well. Yeah, he hasn't batted brilliantly, but he was batting really well in the West Indies at number 3. They've also moved him around the order a little bit. So there's a few things going on there, but I wouldn't be thinking about dropping him unless, their bowlers are tired and they want Webster to come in and bowl some more. But I think Inglis is the most likely to leave. A specialist number 7, I don't think so. Oneswar says, what would the pitch rating be? Will bowlers be blamed too? Batters were blamed in Perth. Valid. New Zealand, West Indies is on a road. And Jarrod, why the Pope? There's a lot of questions here. Very hard to answer them all. What would the pitch rating be? I mean, the pitch is fine. You could still get wickets on this surface. It is probably one of those pitches where the second, there's probably about a 35 to 40 overweight for the second new ball, which is not ideal. But there's been sideways movement for the bowlers. It's been a little bit too pacey. Don't see any issue with the pitch though. New Zealand, West Indies looks like a much harder wicket there. Why the Pope hate? I don't know what that means. He doesn't make runs in Test cricket. He averaged 31 in the last World Test Championship cycle. No one hates him. He's not making any runs. Zach is worse than him. I've done lots of videos on Zach Crawley as well. You need to actually go back and look at my work. I've covered these guys. I've covered Zach Crawley and Ollie Pope multiple times before, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that one. I did have a bunch of questions. Muku, can you not find all the questions that I had brought up? Giroto says, this is what I thought before the series. Stokes might overwork it. No, that was a question from earlier today, Muku. That's not helping me at all. Let's just take a quick break because I did have about 6 or 7 really good questions lined up and I don't know what happened to them. Cricket boards actually make watching their games almost impossible. I spend almost as much time trying to find where I can view it as I do actually following the action. That is why I use NordVPN. They let me find all the cricket I want to watch while protecting me from the nasty side of the internet. Nord will free your cricket matches. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Watch every match with NordVPN. All right, welcome back. Oh wait, I see. Okay. Oh no, there's another super chat came in. Showman says, Bazball was meant to make England look fearless, but in its biggest moment, Stokes hasn't gone full throttle. He's found success by batting against Bazball. I mean, the truth is, though, I'm not going to have a go at him for that. That's what they should do. There are certain moments. It made sense yesterday evening to bat the way that he did because the ball had got soft and Jofra was seeing them quite well. And it didn't look like Australia was about to get Jofra out at that point. I thought at that stage I had no issue with the way that Stokes did. And then he came out on day 3 and he started to score and look for runs a little bit more. That's what we want it to be. The fact that they are willing to take, more risks than other teams is a part of it. But if you just take them all the time, I don't really see the point of that. So, yeah, if you just play one-dimensional cricket, which is what we've all been accusing them of doing, and losing, then really use this. Like, for instance, I've got no issue with them coming out and chasing 400 and 450 in the style that they are usually going to bat in, because I think it is very unlikely. And I think there was a question that I had before that I can't find now about England batting for a couple of days and trying to go for the draw. England have to go for the win. They don't have a choice, right? That's the only chance to win this series is to go for a win. World Test Championship points also maybe don't matter to them as much, but if you're thinking about it from that perspective, they have to go for the win. So yeah, I think we might see them bat like Bazball again. But there's a lot of guys without confidence at the moment. There's a lot of guys that are not seeing the ball particularly well. There's a lot of bad matchups in this, I think, as well. Like, Root to Cummins is a bad matchup, right? Duckett and Lyon is a bad matchup. Like, there's a few things that are just against England at the moment. Loopy says the risk is rain is forecast on Sunday. It may or may not impact how much time is left in the game. Yeah, I think if I'm Australia, I'm not worried about that at all. Firstly, I think in general, if you play to the rain and it doesn't come, you look like idiots. And realistically, rain can come when you don't expect it, and rain can not come when you do expect it. It's very rare now that we get enough rain that it's consistent, that teams are off. Drainage is so much better in world cricket, all these sorts of things. But on top of that, they're 2-0 up, and they're massively ahead in this game. I think you want to tie... I mean, Cass looks really, really sore. Jofra looks really, really tired. They're going to want to pick both of those guys. Tung's the only one at the moment who looks fit enough to bowl, and I would just get him to bowl as much as possible if I was Australia. So, sometimes you want to win the test match, but you also want to be in a situation where you can win the next 2 test matches even easier, right? So, I have no worries with that at all. Dorito says, if I'm Australia, I would really like to anti-Bazball. England play for... anti-Bazball England, play for 2 sessions tomorrow and give yourself 100 overs for England. Yeah, I mean, when Khawaja was in, I was on the Discord channel. You'll find it if you're part of our Patreon, you'll be able to find it. But I was basically saying there a similar kind of thing, which is I thought Usman Khawaja should have just batted for the second new ball. Now, I'm not having a go at him. He got a short wide one and he nicked it, and these things happen. But in my mind, I was like, I don't know how you get someone like Usman Khawaja out on a pitch like that once he's set. The first 30 overs, 35 overs is a little bit different. The ball was hard and, England still had a chance of getting wickets. But once it got to, I think I said once it got to 45 overs, I didn't really expect another wicket unless it was a batter giving it up, right? And that's kind of based on what we saw in the earlier in the game as well, and just the way that the ball was getting soft. And so, what might change a little bit tomorrow, Dorito, is the second new ball, and so they might play some more shots then, and they they might think, well, we've got 40 overs, let's just see if we can score a little bit quicker for 35 of those overs. But they've still got a while before the second new ball even comes, right? So, I honestly wouldn't be too worried if I was Australia about the rain or anything like that. I'd just try and be batting as long as possible. Rat says Australia should make the most out of the flat pitch. Got to get those averages up. It's not just about that, is it? This is a batting lineup that hasn't had a huge amount of confidence. I don't think Head and Carey are the ones you really need to score, but I think Inglis is someone who would like to make some runs, right? So he's the only one left. Khawaja's already got some confidence back from this game. Smith will come back. Weatherall would have been the other one that you would have liked to make runs. Marnus looked good in the first innings, not as good in the second innings, but he looks like he's coming back into it a little bit. But yeah, when you get a pitch like this, it's not just about getting our average up, right? It's about feeling better for the rest of the series, and without getting too Jeffrey Boycott about it, filling your boots. Richard says England's bowling has made Khawaja look better than he has been in 3 years. I think it's about 2 years, isn't it, his form slump? I think some of it is also going away from the new ball. We've been covering this on Good Areas pretty constantly, that it is very, very hard to score against the new ball in world cricket at the moment. And Khawaja had a great run against it. Then he lost a little bit of form and suddenly couldn't hit the ball anywhere, right? Like, there was no doubt that is a thing that happened to him and was causing some problems. But getting away from the new ball is certainly a big help. But then on top of that, getting away from the new ball on a pitch like this, right? And England dropped him. I talked about Harry Brook in the intro. Harry Brook has dropped Khawaja, who set up the first innings, even though Carey's innings, was the one that really put them away. And then he's dropped, what's his name today? Travis Head today, right? But yeah, it's easier to bat at number 4, than especially on a wicket like this, than it is to open. It's generally easier to bat at number 4. Jessica says, England will thank you for the very generous super chat as well, Jessica. England were blown away to smithereens in 2-3, 6-7, 13-14, 21-22, 27-18, In 27-18, they put up a competent effort, but overwhelmed by a top-level Aussie side. Where does this series stand in history so far? I mean, this is a good team getting blown away to smithereens, right? Like they've got multiple options with the ball. Spinner was always going to be a problem, but realistically, they could have picked a better spinner. Liam Dawson exists. They've got in Stokes, the way he'd been bowling recently, that gives them a lot of extra stuff. They came with, a platoon of different kinds of, different bowlers. Their batting lineup, they're batting to number 8, right? Like, there's a lot there. And everything has gone wrong. Ben Duckett hasn't made any runs. Harry Brook hasn't had any impact. Jamie Smith hasn't had any impact. Zach Crawley and Ollie Pope as a combined unit haven't really done all that much. You're leaving a lot then on Root and Stokes, right? And then with the ball, they planned poorly. They executed poorly. They picked the wrong attack for the wrong games. They've left themselves in Adelaide with a guy who can't land the ball in the right area consistently. They're having to bowl Joe Root in Adelaide as well. They probably should have bowled Joe Root in the first innings, which I think if that's how you've ended up, like lots of different things have gone wrong. They've dropped crucial catches all the way through. They've had some big moments where they had chances where they've just given it away. They've clawed themselves in before allowing themselves to go again. So, I mean, at the moment, they're on the way to being blown to smithereens. I'd have to go back through all those other sides. I think 13-14 is the interesting one, right? Because 13-14 was the side that they brought over that on paper was good, but we knew there was some issues with some of the players. I don't think anyone really expected Swan to go mid-series, Trott to go mid-series, and Pryor to go from injury mid-series. But they really did struggle quite a lot on that tour, right? And that was probably the other one that maybe is the closest to this, where you look at it and you say, well, they had a chance and they didn't even get close. I mean, they'd won the Ashes, 6 months before? 3-0? Was it 3-0? Can't even remember. Did they win it? I can't remember the results in that one. And there's a lot of Ashes tests being played that year. So I think that was probably the one that compares the most to this at the moment, at least on paper. Oops. Honest One says, what happens to Stokes physically if this goes to day 5 and England forced to bowl 2 sessions on day 4? Philly might not play at the SCG. SCG? MCG and SCG. I think that's a really, really good question. When I was on air, so I just want to have a look, but I'm pretty sure I saw a message in my group. No, I can't find my group. That said that Stokes could have bowled. He's okay from what we understand, says Jeetan Patel about Stokes. Look, I know he gets hit in the nuts a lot, but geez, did you see how often he was like pulling at his groin? I mean, he's clearly not okay. Sometimes they just say things for the sake of saying things, that team and whatever else. But yeah, he doesn't look great at the moment. That's the thing with Stokes, though. He looks injured like 98% of the time anyway. So until he's not picked, I wouldn't worry about it. But if he can't bowl, that seems like a bit of an issue, right? I mean, it certainly affected them today. I think I liked Carter's opening spell. I like that he bowled over the wicket. Like, the LBW was a little bit arsey, but at least he was putting the ball roughly in the right area to get an LBW. First innings, he was nowhere near that. I thought Jofra bowled really well, but didn't really come back for his second spell. I thought then Cast looked really tired in the field. Stokes wasn't bowling. Will Jacks had to be spelled by Joe Root, which is not ideal. I thought Josh Chung bowled really well at various times. And they tried to exhaust him by making him bowl the bounces as well. Maybe not the ideal situation on a day like this. But yeah, there was a lot of heavy breathing, maybe is the best way of putting it. Shushan says, who will you replace Pope with? Bethel might be a great talent, but hasn't shown his mettle in red ball yet. Batting against this attack at number 3 is tough. Yeah, I suppose do you think there's an issue with Bethel batting at number 3 if Pope isn't going to make runs anyway? Like, you have to make that call at a certain point. That's the whole fake 3 thing that we've been talking about. I thought they might genuinely go with Will Jacks at number 3 in this game. He was going to play anyway. That would have allowed them to get an extra bowler into the side. They still have Cass at number 8. Maybe without Atkinson, they felt a little bit naked with that. But I don't know. You've got to take 20 wickets, right? So, like, I could have understood if they'd gone in that direction and maybe, brought an extra bowler in. But yeah, in this squad, there is, if you go back, well, I'm not going to do it now, but I did look at this on one of the previous shows. There's quite a few actual other batting options available to them. So you could, like, when you say who would you replace Pope with, it's probably very different to what England would do. But I think Alex Lees, Dom Sibley, and Hamid are all making runs, right? Hamid are all making runs. If it wasn't for Bazball, surely one of them would come back in, right? Like, that's part of the problem with this sort of dogmatic approach to thinking about the way that you do cricket. Like, you shouldn't really be left with, if we don't pick Ollie Pope at number 3, our options are Jacob Bethel or Will Jacks, right? But that's kind of when you have this sort of structured thinking that they have, that's where they've kind of found themselves, right? Vibor says, how much of England performance in Australia is psychological? I mean, there's always a part of that. There's no doubt that England put so much pressure on themselves for the Ashes in a way that Australia don't. I think that is a huge part of it, right? I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that England bowlers traditionally don't transfer their skills to Australia as much as Australian bowlers do to England. So there's that. Australian batters are incredible on Australian pitches. And, you have a look at, there's so many Australian players with like averaging well over 50 at home and under 40 away from home. Like, more than, I would say, maybe Australia almost has as many of those as the rest of world cricket combined, would be my guess. Like, it's quite a drastic difference. So that's another huge advantage. I just think they planned for the wrong Ashes this time, specifically. I think they planned for pre-2021 Ashes. And the ball has changed and the wickets have changed and they weren't ready for that. So, yeah, I mean, psychological, it's one of those things. Like, that's what everyone will point at. I think it's fair to say that we had question marks over their top 3 and we had question marks over Brook and Smith, who were both due a bit of a regression anyway, but also just we had some question marks over them. And so far, like, I think this is what I said before the series. I said I was a little bit worried about Brook and Smith. Obviously worried about Crawley and Pope. So there's 4 batters in your top 7. And I was really worried that they were picking the wrong bowling attack for this, for the conditions in Australia at the moment. But and then you've got the spinner issue as well, which we all knew about, including them, to be fair. That's just a lot of questions, and every one of those questions has been answered in a definitive, you fucked up England. That's not psychological, right? Those are just issues of the way that their team sets up a little bit. Richard says, forget the batting. Given that Wood was always going to be iffy for this series, and England's bowlers being injury prone, weren't they set up to fail? They had plenty of bowlers. Like, they had, backup bowlers, Cass, Atkinson, Jofra, Wood, Potts, Stokes. We'd expect that. I mean, Australia's had injuries as well, right? Like, you're talking about Wood being iffy for this series and England's bowlers being injury prone. Well, Hazelwood hasn't played. Jai Richardson wasn't fit to come in as Australia's replacement, which he probably would have. Cummins wasn't fit. So, both teams have had injury problems with their bowlers. It's just that Australia's best 6 bowlers, Jofra's probably the only one that gets in that list, right? And even then, he's probably, I'm not sure you can have an argument between Jofra and Jai Richardson, being that we barely ever see Jai Richardson. And, maybe in Australian conditions at the moment, you take Jofra over line just because it's more for seam bowlers. But other than that, like, there's a big difference in the quality of those two attacks. Occam's Taser says, how much of a difference in this test is Jacks and Root's figures of 3 for 250? Are they playing Jacks because they're worried about their batting? This is my understanding. Now, I'm not in Australia, but obviously I have friends around the camp, and I've sent some messages. It's very different when you're there and you see the guys and you see someone that you know. You can go over and just go, what's going on? From my understanding, Shoaib Bashir in the nets was not bowling particularly well. I'm sure that's been reported by English writers as well, but that's my understanding of the situation, is that they had planned on bowling Jarrod Bashir. When he got to Australia, they felt he wasn't particularly confident and he wasn't bowling very well. They felt in the nets that Will Jacks was bowling pretty much at a similar level to Jarrod Bashir. Will Jacks can field, Will Jacks can bat, right? Like there's a lot of pluses to that kind of cricketer. The issue is, of course, that what you were talking about in the nets is someone bowling 6 to 8 overs, right? And you get a bit of an idea of them. When they're a frontline bowler in a game like this specifically, wasn't as big an issue at the Gabba, but in a game like this, it's the amount of overs he's going to have to bowl. And we saw that over he bowled after tea. So let me try and remember that. Half tracker, down leg side, maybe over pitched, short outside off stump. And I can't remember what the last one was. Maybe it was 2 shorter balls at the end. I mean, that's just such a part-time is over, right? And to be fair to Jarrod Bashir, he goes for runs and he's one of the most expensive bowlers in the history of Test cricket. But I also would say with someone like Jarrod Bashir that, he can get into a rhythm and, bowl a troubling length at times because of the extra bounce that he has. He's got technical flaws as well. They probably should have brought Liam Dawson over and done that. But, they've been flirting with Liam Dawson. I think they thought with all of Australia's left-handers, bringing a left-arm finger spinner over. I just think Liam Dawson's a really confident cricketer. But there is no great answer because Dawson's not a great answer either, right? There just isn't an answer for that question. So I don't think they were just playing Jacks for their batting. I think it was everything, really. I think it was they weren't sure about Bashir. They thought that if Jacks comes in and he can do a Bashir-like job and they can get something else out of it, that helps. And look, it's a bit like the whole Bazball thing about their batting, isn't it? They're doing this from a position of weakness. Jacks is in the side from a position of weakness. And generally, when you pick someone from a position of weakness, you're already in the shit, right? Before it started. Sachit Raj says, any test opener aged more than 35 doing good in the last 4 years. There's like 4 openers in the world in the last 5 years that made any runs anyway, right? Like everyone's been struggling. I don't think it's about age. I think it's just it's tough to be an opening batter in the world at the moment. That's why we've got these funky number 3s, right? Honestwise says, don't you think England are repeating India's Border Gavaskar mistake by stacking all rounders, leaving just 3 bowlers and overextending them? I think I explained that in the previous question. They thought that Will Jacks could do the job of Jarrod Bashir. If they thought that Jarrod Bashir would have been a specialist bowler worth picking, I honestly think they might have chosen him for this game. The batting is a part of it with Will Jacks. I wouldn't deny that, but I honestly believe that they came into this thinking that Will Jacks was of a similar level to Jarrod Bashir's current bowling. Maybe from what I heard, they were saying Will Jacks was bowling better than him in the nets. Now, that could just be one guy. It could be PR, whatever. It could be them justifying their decision. Right? I don't know. But I do think there is an element of that's what they believed. And that's what they've gone with. So, this isn't like India. I don't think they're doing this to be like a more dynamic side, which is, I think, what India was trying to do, right? I think this is more, if we're going to pick a spinner, we might as well pick someone who we trust. And I think they trusted Will Jacks. It's just that he was overbowled on day one. I think they made a mistake on day one, bowling him as much as they did. And over a period of time, he's just not going to be able to land the ball in the same spot consistently, ball after ball. There's nothing we can do about that. Once you pick a player like him, it's funny. His best ball isn't that bad, right? But his best ball isn't also like Moeen Ali's best ball. So he's not going to blast through many players. And he is going to give you a bad ball. I always get nervous when the Australians start to attack him because I was like, why would you do that? He's going to bowl down the leg side. He's going to bowl short balls. He really struggles with his length, massively. Pratik with the big super chat says, I like Carter's bowling action. Yeah, it's wholehearted, isn't it? There's a lot there. Look, good on him for coming back today. You know, I know he took some wickets in Brisbane, but he really has been struggling at times in this series. And I thought he bowled poorly against India. I actually thought, sort of Jofra and Kars as the sort of 1-2, not the opening bowlers, like Kars' first change. A year ago, I was like, that's a bowling lineup that I can understand. There's a bit of batting there as well. But Kars has really struggled for a while. So, yeah, I think I really like Kars as well. I think he tries a lot. But there are times where I think tactically he doesn't get it, and he's not accurate enough. I think it's very hard to be a fast bowler anymore without accuracy as well. Like, the days of sort of having a shock fast bowler, I wonder if they're almost gone, just because there's unless you're like really express. I think teams are just too good at picking that off now. Matthew says, say Steve Smith retired at the end of the series. Would Australia replace him with McSweeney or go with Hanscom or Lehman? McSweeney, I would have thought. So, okay, so if he retires at the end of the series, you move Green to 4. Maybe you try and get Khawaja to stick around a little bit longer. And then you've got Carey at 6 / Webster, Inglis, however you want to have your number 7 position. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other options there as well. It's probably not guys like Sutherland or Hardy or anyone, is it? But yeah, so you give yourself a little bit more there. I don't expect Smith to retire, but yeah, I would probably move Green to 4 because I think that's where they want to bat him. Or you'd just bring McSweeney in at 4 and leave Green at 5, and then maybe shake hands with Khawaja as well. But I think Khawaja's much more likely to go than Smith. Kiwi Nick says, Australia touring South Africa and New Zealand. Australia touring South Africa and New Zealand, touring England should really be interesting tours coming up. Australia touring South Africa and New Zealand touring England should be really interesting tours coming up. How have South African pitches been lately? I mean, obviously they spin more than they usually do. The South African pitches generally favour pace. They've been a little bit up and down of times, but yeah, I think, you don't want, even though they've got some good spinners, I don't think they want to make the wickets too friendly for spin. But someone did suggest, Nick, in one of the shows that with the spinners that they have in South Africa now, maybe they just take on Lion, right? And make the wickets turn a little bit. But I think both of those tours are really interesting. I think New Zealand touring England is the one I'm really fascinated at. Unfortunately now, it might be a bit of a reset series, right? There is an element of that as well. But yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a reset series for England with everything that's happened here. But yeah, both of those I'm quite fascinated at. I'm with you. I think they're really cool little series coming up. RCY4 says, how long are we going to persist with the Green experiment? Surely need to spell out of the squad, bring Webster in. Then I don't think they're really like for like. I see Webster as a number 7 who can bowl and give you multiple options. Green is a very, very different kind of player. I don't think there's any real reason to drop him. He's 26. They don't have a lot of young players making any runs. He's averaging 34. He has been yanked around the order a little bit. He batted at 4. Looked like that was his spot. Obviously, Smith had to go back to number 4. He batted at 3, which probably wasn't his spot. I thought did a good job of it in tricky conditions. Now he's back at, 5? Did he bat at 6 in one of these games as well? I don't think there's any reason to drop him at the moment at his age and everything else. I don't think it's been a prolonged enough period. I'd just give him a few more test matches and see how he goes. But yeah, I'm fine with him. I'm not looking like to bring him out of the squad. Ringo says, do you expect to see classical test batters as a rare thing now? Most grew up with one eye on league cricket after T20, less focus on the classical game. I think classical batting changed in the mid-90s. I don't know why people didn't really notice it. Australia really were the first team to change this, right? Like, I know it's not as extreme as what we see now, but it's all a part of it. And there should be an evolution. I would actually argue that with everything we now know, test batting has probably been way too defensive for too long. So I think there should be a natural correction. You say after 2010, there'll be less focus on the classical game. There's still actually a lot of go and watch first class cricket, right? What's Victoria's what's Victoria's lineup at the moment? Is Victoria playing a game right now? No, they won't be. The Bash is on. Last Victorian Shield game. Can I find the? Here we go. So they smashed New South Wales in that game. Right, Campbell Callaway is the opening batter. Decent player, quite young. He has a strike rate of 42 in first class cricket. He's 23 years old. Harry Dixon is opening the batting with him. Harry Dixon probably whacks him a little bit more. Although Harry Dixon really hasn't made many runs at the moment, but he's made a couple of 50s. We'll leave him out. That's a shame. There's other guys there. There's some great guys there. Marcus Harris. All right. So what's his career strike rate in first class cricket? 52. We've all seen Marcus Harris play, not particularly a T20 player, despite the fact he kept playing a lot of Big Bash for a long period of time. But again, defensive player, good at getting off strike. I'll give him that, Harris. But certainly not an attacking player. I'll leave out Peter Hanscom because he's really old. Oliver Peake. Let's have a look at Oliver Peake, his record. He has played 10 first-class games with a strike rate of 44. They've also got a guy called Ash who had a strike rate of about 35. If you look at first-class cricket, there's lots of these guys out there. The more talented players at the moment seem to be dominating a little bit. But yeah, also, we have gone through a period where no one could make runs blocking, and we had a bunch of Sibley, Brathwaite, Elgar type guys, right? And that wasn't working. And teams have gone for attacking players as a counter to that, right? Fine. No one's having a go at that because it made sense. But it also hasn't worked all that well, except for the number 5 position. But certainly in the top 4, that hasn't worked. So we might see a bit of a throwback to, can we get maybe one attacking opener in with 3 other players in the top 4 who are able to soak up the pressure? And especially now that the number 5s are kind of taking over Test cricket, there's something to be said for that. But yeah, I don't think it's as dramatic as people think it is. Occam's Taser says, as someone that has wasted 10 years of my life campaigning for Maxi in the Test team, sometimes over Lion, is this Jack's performance the answer to why the Aussie selectors had a point all along? I mean, he would never have played as a frontline first-class bowler. Maxi's a really clever bowler, and he's one of those guys, a little bit like Root, who thinks like a batter and can put the ball in difficult areas for batters. Like, he understands in a way that bowlers don't always exactly what is going to be the biggest issue. But you're talking about someone who in 69 games has 78 wickets at 41, right, in first-class cricket. He's a bit staccato. He probably can't bowl really long spells. There was no way that Maxwell was ever going to be a frontline bowler. I mean, Nathan Lyon is like an 80% better bowler than Maxwell in first-class cricket. Maybe I'm being conservative there. Like, they're not even comparable. But if you had Maxwell in a team and you had Shoaib Bashir, then you might think to yourself, well, we might as well just pick Maxwell. You might still be wrong, but I can understand how a team would come to that. Sports Fanatic says, how about dropping Marnus and playing Khawaja at 3 for the remainder of the series? Khawaja looks comfortable against bowling and Marnus doesn't. I thought up until this last innings, Marnus had looked really good. I don't think maybe Perth was ideal, but I thought the 3 innings he played, it was 3 innings, 2 innings. How many did he play at the Gabba? I thought he looked good at the Gabba. He looked really, really comfortable, and I thought he looked really good in the first innings here. So no issues there. Matthew says, odds on Khawaja, Lyon and Stark retiring at the series end. Khawaja's quite short, maybe 2 or 3 to 1. Maybe even shorter than that. Lyon, after the press conference the other day, don't see it happening. Maybe there's an element of like Lyon thinking along the lines of Ashwin of like, if I'm not going to be front line, I don't want to be as involved. But I wouldn't be retiring if I was Lion. And Stark has given up some of his white ball cricket. So I'm assuming Stark is going to continue to play for a long period of time. Yeah, I don't see him as a potential retiree. So I don't know, Lions like 12 to 1 and Stark is like 150 to 1. Samrat says, bottom line is Australia are better than England and were better than India last year despite Bumrah's godly performance. What do you feel is the best strategy to beat Australia with this bowling lineup in this form? It's a good question, actually. They're very much carried by their bowling lineup, right? I don't know. I was saying this morning, and I'll probably do a video on this, their bowling lineup's better now than it even was against India, and that it has been at any other time. Hazelwood's the best he's ever been. Stark's the best he's ever been. Lyon's figures suggest he's the best he's ever been, and we haven't seen him. And Boland and Cummins haven't changed, right? And if you add Jai Richardson, if let's imagine we get a fit Jai Richardson, it's even better, right? Like, so how do you beat a great bowling lineup? Like that's not an easy thing to game plan for, right? When you come to Australia, tiring them out is still probably your best option. That was how India beat them a few years ago. Watching them bowl yesterday when England were batting fine on a really flat pitch, it's just hard to, you probably need like Pujara, Rahane, Kohli, Rishabh Pant level batting lineup to be able to tire them out. Like if you look at South Africa's batting lineup, I'm not sure that's good enough to tire them out consistently. I don't think New Zealand's is. Pakistan, Sri Lanka shouldn't be able to do it. So you're left with India again, right? And India's, a team with some players coming in. They're not like fully developed yet. And a lot of them won't played a lot of cricket in Australia. It's tough to beat them, man. Jonathan says, is there any point to starting a petition to New Zealand cricket to demand New Zealand have practice games before 4 test series in Australia next year? Yeah, the whole practice games thing is really interesting, right? Because, we hear about it a lot and former players talk about it quite a bit. You do have to understand Australian conditions, but you almost have to take over a touring team with you now. And then you have to hope that Australia puts up a good wicket. Someone was telling me in the World Test Championship, playing conditions, it does actually say you have to give good opportunities for the other teams to have touring games. I'm not sure how many teams actually follow through on that. But yeah, I can see why you would say that. Vibor says, is it weird the top 2 Oz wicket takers are spinners? No, because most top wicket takers are spinners, aren't they? Like, I think like Lance Gibbs was the top wicket taker in the West Indies. I don't know if he still is. He probably isn't. No, Curtly and Courtney would have gone past him, wouldn't they? But he was the top wicket taker for ages in the West Indies. England probably never had that kind of a spinner. I'm trying to think, even if maybe in the early days, it depends on if you account Sid Barnes, perhaps. New Zealand have Vittori, who's was the second top wicket taker, or did he take more than Hadley? So I'm trying to remember all the different numbers off the top of my head. So it makes sense if you've got a spinner who comes into the side young and they play for a long time. Also, spinners bowl an incredible amount of overs, right? Is it Kumble bowled around 55 to 60 overs? There was heaps of years where Nathan Lyon was averaging 55 overs a game for Australia at home. So no, I don't think so. Also, remember, you're thinking about this from a younger person's perspective. Australia, at one stage, had a bowling attack where the 2 best bowlers, you could argue almost the only bowlers they had at certain times, were leg spinners. Like, it's not, Australia's first bowler to 100 wickets was an off spinner. Nick says, if one of the Australia versus New Zealand tests are in Newlands, will we get the same type of pitch that India got in 2003 against South Africa? I don't think so, because they might not be able to host a game again, Nick, if they do that again, right? So I'm assuming not. I'm assuming they'll go in a slightly different direction with that sort of thing. Yeah, what I was saying before, and I can't remember who the commenter was because it was a while back, but yeah, you can see why there's certainly an argument for the pitch to be maybe not flat is the wrong way of looking at it, but maybe more helpful for spin, just because they do have some good spin options available to them. Whereas they might look at their pace bowling and go, do we really want to go up against them? I mean, Boland on those wickets, on South African wickets, Boland and Cummins on those wickets will be really, really tough. And the way that Stark's bowling and Hazelwood, like, that's 4 really good bowlers to go up against. So it'll be fascinating to see what South Africa do and whether they can do it and everything else. All right, that's it. Me done. I'll be back at the end of the test. There'll be probably some other videos on the main channel, but I won't be doing any more of the third innings or the Morning Glory shows. I think Behram's going to try and do a Morning Glory tomorrow anyway. So if you're watching at lunchtime, pop over and have a look. And if you want to ask him a question, you can. But yeah, I don't think I'll be doing any more live shows. And we'll probably get Rob Barron to wrap up the test match as he does that in his own style. But yeah, I will be around, but not specifically at my computer and everything else over the next couple of days. So I'll be watching it, but in a hotel room quietly with my family around and using a lot of MV Play and everything else. But I'll still be watching the game, but just not available for the lives, really, is the best way. But thanks to everyone for their support, and see you for cricket's Christmas, the Boxing Day. Cricket boards actually make watching their games almost impossible now. I spend almost as much time trying to find where I can view it as I do actually following the action. That is why I use NordVPN. They let me find all the cricket I want to watch while protecting me from the nasty side of the internet. Nord will free your cricket matches. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Watch every match with NordVPN.